Hello and welcome to our show. My name is Alexey Presnov, and today we are going back with you to our English language broadcasts, which we produce every 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know what is happening. It's just second, third attempt to record this video. We have some problems with our sound, but I hope this time it will work. Let's talk about what is going on in Russia and Kazakhstan. And just as I said last time we met with you around 3 weeks ago, it was September 20th or September 19th, and we have discussed a very important topic of Russian power sector development because we discovered, we just showed you, and that Russian Ministry of Energy have published their proposal, their actually bill, which amending, radically amending the existing electricity law, and all those, achievements of the power reform of the power sector, which we, had, and we have undergone that reform back in zeros, and also it was more or less was adjusted and continued in 2010s, and so Russia is one of the country with the largest power system, which already completely post-reformed and liberalized, and industry, and even in the United States, as we know, there are some jurisdictions which are liberalized, but others they are not. They're regulated completely. But Russia, it's a very big power system, and I think it's third or fourth largest in the world, and it was completely liberalized, or at least it was considered to be so. And those proposals from the Ministry of Energy, they're completely changing the picture. They want to monopolize the investment sector of the industry, to control all those constructions, all those forecasts, all those means of how to meet growing demand in future. And it's if you remember, we were talking about a special corporation which they're going to create. It's called Rosenergo Project or Rosenergo Project. And it's a kind of corporation which will control all those standards, how to build, where to build, at what price to build, and also it will be some special financial institution, and everything will be under Ministry of Energy, which will be just direct actor, like it was used to be in the Soviet Union times, direct managing all those processes. And of course, for Russian power sector, which is power-based, market-based, and there are some competing companies, and they are, of course, most of them, they belong to the states, and many of them, I would put it so. But nevertheless, and it's kind of competitive sector, especially on operational segment, but not in investment segment. That is why, actually, because under those restrictions which we're experienced now, with all those sanctions from Europe, from the United States, of course, it's very difficult to find a solution how to develop further on. And there's a challenge for Russia as well as for other countries to rebuild, to refurbish all their power industry, because mostly it was built back in the Soviet Union times, in 60s, 70s, 80s, but also in Russia in this modern times. It was about 50 gigawatts were built. It's mostly, this thermal stations, about 35 gigawatts, plus also, nuclear power plants, some hydropower plants, and so on. In comparison to other countries, like, for instance, Kazakhstan, which they haven't built almost anything. And we discussed that many times already, that the Russian power sector needs restructuring in terms of how to develop that, and under those conditions of high central bank rate and all those restrictions, we need to, we're at crossroads what to do. There is an option to get back uh, and return to the, all those conceived earlier things with regard to market development of the industry and investment segment. And the other option is that one which was actually declared by the Minister of Energy, just to return back to the Soviet style practice, administrative planning. Everything is monopolized. And they, argue that it's, Chinese pathways. But I told last time that it's not true. It's not the case, because the thing is that, China is different economy there, but also they have some competition, even though they mostly, state owned, and they are not. They don't have market. They are not liberalized as Russia in terms of market-based power sector. But also, of course, the achievements are very great of Chinese industry, but it's different, and we need to find a solution. And of course, those radical terms which Minister of Energy proposes, it's they are very, to my understanding, they are doubtful in terms of if it's possible to implement them safely, and they would bring us to the point which we need right now to meet those challenges which Russian power sector actually faces. But the thing is that, of course, I just want to point out that all those discussions are, arise actually arise because of this current situation in the economy in general, with the high inflation, high interest rate, high cost of capital, and so on. But that is geopolitical things, and they don't depend on industry, and they were not born inside of the power industry. That is why my understanding, and that we need to move it away to some kind of tax which all those consumers will pay. And so within this tax we can choose some priorities and some benefits for some projects and some groups of consumers, for instance, and so on and so forth. But so far, we see that this ramification, there's a lot of voices. They appeared in Russia and also in Kazakhstan, for instance. And yesterday I saw some video. There were two, famous, quite well-known, I would put it so, experts from one from Russia, one from Kazakhstan, and they were discussing how good was, the Soviet-style power sector, and so we need to return back there. And also, they were stating and they were claiming that all those commercial and market-based, relations in the power sector, they are just impossible, because Russia has and Kazakhstan also, they have very cold climate, so it's a question of survival, not question of business, and therefore it should be kind of state controlled, state monopolized, and state monitored and state ruled completely without any business as until no profits, no income there. Should be no stocks, no companies, no commercial companies. I don't understand how they're going to implement it, where they're going to get money for development. No, they were talking about some pension funds and some budget, but this is everything that kind of things we saw already. I'm old enough. I worked, started my career back in the 80s, mid of 80s. And I saw how it was developing in the Soviet Union, and especially in the 90s, when the sector was, kind of monopolized. It was state-owned. It was rigid and very inertial. And of course, it was, other branches of economy were flourishing very rapidly. They became market-based. And that distortion, it was quite obviously at that time. And, actually, we remember all those barter times. We call it barter because all services and goods were changed for electricity, and there were no money exchange there. The industry was an oblivion, actually, and it was degrading very fast. And reform in the beginning of 2000s, it was demanded actually not by somebody who just conceived it in their heads, but it was just let's say objectively in demand, and that's why it happened. And also, in general, market economy, it's much more stable and robust in terms of, resilient and to all those stresses which we experience right now because of all those sanctions and restrictions. And I hope that major speakers from the government and major economists in the government and this economic bloc of the government, they will, be reacting somehow, and we will see it next week. It will be Russian Energy Week, and we will see some statement there. So I guess it will be clear position of the government on those proposals of the Minister of Energy, who is, as I said last time, who is quite influential. He's rumored to be very close to president, but we hope that it won't happen, at least in this way, which is being proposed right now. What is else? What else? It's interesting that there are some discussion also about slow consumers and fast consumers. We're talking about data centers. Data centers and mining centers. They are very fast consumers, and they want to connect to the grid because all of them, they need a lot of electricity. But we also have those slow consumers like big enterprises. For instance, Novatek is building something in the north of Russia. They've planned for gas liquefying and so on. And there is a contradiction between those consumers and grid, because grid, if those big ones, they come to the grid, apply for connection, and then they got these conditions where they have to, fulfill, and they have to build some of their facilities. Also, the grid needs to, be developed to meet those demands. But it takes a lot of time. It takes like 5, 7, 10 years, and it's unclear if those applications, all those parameters will be met at that time. Or will be in need actually at that time. But in meantime, others like those data centers for artificial intelligence and so on, they are just in queue, and they are denied for connections because of that slower one. And the solution is to make to kind of temporary um connections for certain period of time, certain number of years, and after that to find a solution which will suit for all sides. Also, it will be kind of harmonized for for the grid and for consumers. And that discussion is, by the way, is the same. I just watching the same discussion in the United States because there it's more economic one in terms of they just the states of for instance in PJM they want more power because the capacity prices in PJM they rose to 10 times in 24 comparing to 2023. And also in this year, they rose again, two times comparing to 2024. And of course, the states, they don't want, that kind of rise. They're very concerned about that. But and in many cases, the reason for this, rise of prices of capacity are this data centers development and so on. So we need to somehow to adjust its developments to the needs of other consumers. And so it's same discussion in Russia. It's interesting because electricity is sector is the same everywhere. In Kazakhstan, so just briefly, if we look what is happening in Kazakhstan, they are not in that discussion because they are just lagging behind. They have at the different level of discussion there. They say that okay, everything is fine. We are working. They're going to build 24 or 26 gigawatts of capacity within the next 10 years, and within the next 4 years left. There is a so-called national plan. They want to build 6.3 gigawatts of traditional capacity plus renewables, which they built a lot, but all of them that's not so efficient. If you just to meet the load, if you just look how it meets the load, you can see that it's very inefficient. But the issue is there that also like in Russia because interest rates are central bank rate is about 18% right now. It's same like in Russia, and of course cost of capital is very high. And how to cope with that? Nobody discusses in details, but at the same time, prices of electricity went up for the last 2 years, and operational market like 2.5 times. It started from like 13 tenge or even 11 tenge. They projected it in July 2023, but now in August 2025, it's 36, 37 tenge. So it's a price, if you just, it's quite a good price, because if you, divide by, it's about 6 cents or something like that, 6, 7 cents US cents of per kilowatt hour. It's not so low as it used to be. But plus they have this capacity price. And plus they have also balancing market price, which is on top of that, it's 36 tenge, and it comes very late because all the system of calculation is very slow and obsolete. And in general, also they have capacity prices, which is now quite low at about 2 tenge per kilowatt hour, but it will rise up to 20 tenge if they continue with those plans, and they will commission all those power objects which they have planned in this national plan. Those 6.3 gigawatts. And we told them that if they don't reconfigure their market model, they don't make it a real competitive, real marginal market, an operational market, also competitive market in the capacity market. And also this infrastructure, because they don't have any architecture of tariffs between this distribution tariffs and bulk grid tariffs and so on. But they don't listen to that. They just continuous, fantasizing about, some demand response and everything like that. But there are no basis for that at all. There is no, actually grounds for to implement that kind of mechanisms. And the problem is there also that their level of expertise is very low, but they don't want to listen to anything and anybody from outside, and especially from Russia. They don't like them because for certain reasons, I don't know why. And we tried that and that because I worked with them, as you know, for 2 years almost with one company there, and we made a quite solid conception what to do, how to proceed, and how to uh, you know uh, to transfer current model to a market based model. But it's not in demand at all, and because this energy sector, they don't want it. They just want to raise their tariffs. The consumers, they are not organized, and um, uh, experts, strata and expert society, they're very uh, unskilled. I would put it mildly. That is what is going on, but we will see because in Russian we made this video. We told them that we predict that if nothing happens in Kazakhstan, they will just go direct to collapse of the industry in very near future. That we wanted to discuss with you, to share our thoughts on what is going on, to share our information. So let's stay in touch, and thank you for following us, and please subscribe, and we'll be continuing our work. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.